All right, welcome back to the EV Hangout. This is a place where the rising tide lifts all boats. In this case, we're doing a lot of gas to electric conversions. But tonight's a special episode. We're not doing conversion talking. We're actually talking about full self-driving and Robotaxi. And the people that know more about it than I do are on the podcast tonight. We got Talik, and he's at a special location, which he's going to describe. And then we got Ali, and he has full self-driving every day. He does Uber. And we got Tom Summers. All three have full self-driving. And we're going to talk about the big moment, We Robot, which is coming up on Thursday. And we're going to get a pregame going on because Tesla's going to unveil their Robotaxi. So, Talik, take it away. You're on location. Where are you?
So I'm on location here in Santa Ana, California. This is the SoCal EV's EV night soft opening practice for this charging location. It's called Rove Charging. They're going to have a mixture of both Tesla V4 charging as well as CCS charging, 40 stalls in all 28 of the superchargers. But the cool thing about this place is it has a lounge, Wi-Fi, water bottle filter, clean bathrooms, a whole mini grocery store, not a convenience shop. It's an actual grocery store. It's got a little bit of everything. Fresh food. We had sushi. I was here for Creator Night last night. It's gonna be a whole bunch of stuff here. But critically, this is right off the freeway in Orange County, Southern California. And a couple of us out here, we're summoning their cars with the current edition of what's going around is called ASS. Actual smart summon. People are they went on before we started recording here, but we got a lot of Tesla people out here, so we can maybe show a demo of the summon in a little bit.
That sounds really cool. I mean, I've always thought that when you go to the gym, what if after the gym you wanted to get some office work done? Why can't you have an office there, like a little WeWork thing? But then also while you're there, might as well get your car charged. So that's kind of sounds like what they got going on. Do they have a gym as well?
No gym yet, but I'll take you through the store. So again, this is their soft opening. Wow. Great Rove staff. This is Jordan and Jordan. Here's the lounge right in here. So there's seats here with outlets and USB ports, place to eat your snacks. We have recycling, water bottles, clean bathrooms, and then over here is the actual shop. So yes, if you stop here before or after the gym, you could pick up a nice healthy snack. We got fruit, sushi like I had yesterday, some fresh wraps and sandwiches, all these kombuchas and dairy and non-dairy choices, and a whole full grocery store over here. So this is definitely the place you want to go if you're in SoCal and you're gonna want to charge up your car. And I also want to point out, this location is actually a good solution for a lot of people that say, well, what if you live in an apartment building? You can't charge your car because you live in an apartment building. Well, if you live near here, you can come get a snack, do a little bit of email work, and then charge up your car while that's happening. And the cool thing is that lounge looks right out at the charging spot, so you can keep an eye on your car. And there is security here all the time. And as I said, there's a car wash too. So it's like your one-stop shop for when you're charging.
Tom, where's this located again?
So this is just off 17th here in Santa Ana, California. And tonight is the SoCal EVs, which is one of the car clubs here. It's a sister club to Tesla Club SoCal. We're basically having all of the modified Teslas and the EVs out here to show support for Rove EV charging starting up tonight.
That is awesome. What a cool thing. I mean,
speaking of awesome, this is by TSK. This is a modified Model 3 convertible. Check this out.
Dude, that is awesome.
This was at EV Fest. Both EV Fests is where my shirt's from. But yeah, this is from TSK. They do repairs and modifications.
Oh my God. Ask them real quick. Ask them if they had to beef up the chassis. We want to know. Ask them.
They look like it will. Maybe I could join him after he's done talking to these people. But let's go over to Ali.
Yeah. All right. So basically, so tonight, the main event, and thank you for that, Talik. That was like an on-location reporter. Holy crap. basically the main thing tonight is the big deal coming up on Thursday, which is the Wii Robot. So, but Ali has a ton of experience with the cars driving themselves. I was always impressed, and yeah, let's roll away. So, Ali, what's happening on Thursday? What's it all about for those of us who have never even? And there's, believe it or not, there's Tesla investors and drivers that don't know about this. And so, start from the beginning. Like, what's going on?
Well, real quick, before we get to Ali, I wanted to say there's a ton of people out there that invest that don't have the cars. So having an investor that is also a owner is an awesome perspective. So Ali, take it away.
All right, thanks, guys. So yeah, 10/10, which is in just a few days on Thursday, Tesla plans to announce, kind of reveal what they've been working on for the last at least 8 years with their Robotaxi network and trying to get full self-driving and autonomous vehicles solved. It's not an easy process. They did it differently than everybody else, and I'll explain that later. Basically, they're using vision only, and that's not easy to do. Vision and a neural network. Basically, they're creating an artificial brain to make decisions. And so they use cameras, which are like eyes. Basically, as humans, in order to drive, all we need really are eyes and our brain. That's basically what Tesla is doing. They're recreating that in a machine way. So the machine is making the decisions, and that's not as easy as it sounds. And of course, for years and years, Elon Musk has said, it's happening this year, it's happening this year, and we've been waiting, and it just hasn't happened because nobody's ever solved this before. Nobody's ever done this before. So it's not it's not like they're building some new motor or some new, engine or something that people have done over the years. They're creating something nobody has ever done before. So it takes a long time. So I think 10/10 is actually, with some of the latest updates we've beginning with self-driving, you're really starting to see the robot, the car, think on its own and make decisions on its own. And that's what we're going to find out.
And what do you think they're going to unveil? Like, we're going to see, I mean, we know that the car does drive itself with some, with people behind the wheel. What do you think they're going to unveil? Is it going to be, just that the car you already have is then going to go pick up riders like Uber? Is that how it's going to go? What do you think we're going to see?
That's the possibility. I think a lot of people have kept their they've kept their optimism in a check because they don't want to overanalyze and overthink that something major is going to happen. But I think they are going to reveal a new product, at least one new product. The fact that they're calling it Wii Robot means we is plural, meaning they're probably going to introduce more things, more than just one vehicle. They've talked about a van before, like a high capacity van that they could announce. I think definitely they'll announce a smaller vehicle that's easy to produce. They called it one time a cyber cab. So the rumors are that it's not going to have paint. It's going to be very easy to produce, very cheap to produce, and they're going to produce it at scale because that's the only way that we're going to put more electric miles on vehicles and displace fossil fuels. Is the more miles these electric cars are able to put on them, the less fossil fuels we'll use. So that's really the whole point of Tesla and doing this whole thing, is to put as many miles on these vehicles as we can. So they're going to make it cheap and easy to produce, but they could produce a lot of them. We may see a network, their own taxi network, which will be, the way they talked about it 5 years ago. I just rewatched their Robotaxi day 5 years ago. It's going to be almost a cross between Uber and Airbnb. So you can either hail a car for just a ride, or you can hail a car for the night or for 2 nights or whatever, however you need it. So I think it's going to be a cross between there. We're not sure yet if it's going to be, some people have been asking them to make a human supervised robotaxi network first, kind of like Uber, where you'll have the system. Tesla will have their own network. So I think minimally they'll do that, but I think they're going for an unsupervised driverless ride, just like, if you guys know what Waymo is a driverless car company that is owned by Google, and they offer driverless rides in LA, San Francisco, and I think Phoenix. So,
Okay.
but they use a different system. They're relying on what's called LiDAR. So LiDAR, if you don't know what that is basically these sensors that are on top of the vehicle that shoot out lasers, and they map the whole area, basically. However, us humans, we don't have lasers that are shooting out of our eyes. We use our eyes and our brain. So that's the difference between these two, is with the Waymo approach, you have to map the whole area. They also rely on high definition mapping. So they have to map a whole city before they're able to go in and use their system. Whereas Tesla, they are a generalized approach, meaning you could basically put the car just about anywhere in the world and it'll figure out how to drive and drive. It just is a software problem. So they're just having to get the software better and better and improve the software. But I think they feel that they've reached that level where they can, go to the next level with this.
Yeah, I would say
Cool.
it's not just a software problem, but it's actually a compute problem. You're training these neural nets to really be like a human, to use just their eyes like a human would. Now, Waymo has been around for a while, and a lot of people are like, well, Waymo's going to beat Tesla to full self-driving and all that because, well, one of the reasons they cite is they're already operating, I believe, in Phoenix and San Francisco, and I think LA. In fact, I was just up in on my way back from Oregon last week. I saw probably 5 Waymos in like 10 minutes out in San Francisco. But they have a whole, like Ali said, there's a bunch of extra equipment. There's all these little LiDAR sensors. They look like old school police lights, but they're sensors instead of lights.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, Tom, I made you co-host in case I lose connection. But let me ask the elephant in the room. Let me get to the nitty gritty here. Ali, is it real? I mean, really, man? Like, really? Okay, but obviously I'm asking because I don't drive full self-driving every day. You do, Tom does, and I think Talik. And just give us a lowdown. Is it a real thing that we're talking about here?
My car, with the new hardware 4, takes me from my garage to wherever I want to go, and 99% of the time I don't even touch the wheel. It's that good. I do have another vehicle that's hardware 3, which is the older hardware. It's a little different. You're already starting to see the hardware 4 vehicles kind of branch off and get better, because their processing power is better. Their cameras are a little better. But I still think the hardware 3 version vehicles will still get to that level. At least that's what they've told us so far. They haven't said anything otherwise. But yes, this is definitely a real thing, and it is going to happen, and it's going to save a lot of lives, because at least 44,000 deaths a year are attributed to human error. And so if you have a computer that can think in a millisecond quicker than we can, it has eyes all around it, so it can see things that we might not see. That's going to save a lot of lives. And that's really the fundamental, and to make transportation affordable for everyone, because when you remove the driver, not only is it a safer vehicle, but the ride can be a less expensive ride. So people won't even need to own a vehicle. They can just hail basically a chauffeur that will take them wherever they want to go for less than the cost of owning a vehicle.
I will that sounds amazing. I will tell you, I have an hour commute each way, and if I could take a nap or get work done, that would be amazing. I somehow I'm recently using a lot of Chat GPT, and what I do is I just one finger touch it. I don't have to look at it. You could touch it and use the mic and let go, and it processes and talks back to you. So that's really helpful because I'm kind of done listening to podcasts. But if you got a long commute,
unless you're listening to this one,
of course.
So Ron,
of course.
So they've thought about this for years. And another thing you're seeing on the screen, look at the size of that screen in that car. They did that purposely because when you're not paying attention to the road, when you don't have to pay attention to the road anymore, you can get work done. You could be more productive. You can watch a movie. You can have a Zoom meeting on that screen. So that screen is pretty much going to be like when Apple introduced their App Store. Everything that you need to be done is going to be on that screen, and that people are going to use their cell phones less and less and less, and they're going to be relying on that screen.
Yeah, I will say on my I also was just recently on a trip to Flagstaff for a band competition, and honestly, I was torn because the reason I drove was because I needed to be here for the opening. But otherwise, I wanted to ride the bus because I wanted to get some editing done. So I was really torn between like getting here to film content or having enough time to edit content. And it's this big tier back and forth, and a lot of people can be more productive. Now, that as some people know, Ollie and I also are rideshare drivers. And so I think we should talk a little bit about the implications this is going to have of a disruption to another labor market. So over the past 10 years, these rideshare companies, Lyft and Uber, have recruited many thousands, if not millions of drivers to go work for them and drive for them. And then the next wave is to basically try to unemploy them, whether it's Waymo or the Robotaxi or whatever it is. So I'm really torn on this because, I've made money doing what the taxi does, but then I want to be able to do other things by it. So I want to no longer have to drive, but what am I going to do in the meantime? Is my YouTube channel going to take off? So how quickly can people adapt from this? They're very, they have some good livelihoods driving, but then if we start to have a new wave of taxis, wipe out some of that income, there's a social impact here as well.
So the way I look at this is back in the day, we also had elevator operators. We also had horse caretakers for the horse and buggy industry. Technology doesn't unemploy people. It just redistributes what they do, because now you have, since the fossil fuel industry that displaced the horse and buggy, you have gas stations, you had repair facilities, you had so many different things that opened up. The same thing's going to happen here. Not like you said, Talik, you'll have your time opened up. If you own 5 vehicles instead of just the one, you actually can make more money, and you don't have to drive. All you'll have to do is you'll switch from being an Uber driver to someone who cleans the car or maintains it, or even just hires out somebody to do that if you don't even feel like doing that, and just have, let's say Rove does it, and they start offering you car washes, and they'll have a wireless charging pad where the autonomous car can go and charge and then take off. They'll make a little money, you'll make a little money. The price will be lower for everyone because it'll be an autonomous ride. And so saying about, yes, it may displace some workers, but the ones that can be smart about it and the ones that can think ahead about it actually will make out better than some of the other ones.
Yeah, in theory, I agree with you, Wally, and I recognize the past examples of disruption, and then it just gets redistributed. The one thing I'm wanting to caution about is that things are accelerating, and the sheer amount of people that will be replaced at a single time, it'll be pretty fast. Like once they actually get these going, I mean, think about how fast Uber and Lyft took over. In 1 year, taxi drivers were doing their thing, and then if you fast forward 5 years, most of the taxi drivers either had to shift becoming Uber, Lyft, or they were unemployed. But it's getting faster, and the other thing about the 5-car thing is that's awesome if you have the means to buy 5 cars. But I would say 80% of the Lyft drivers right now, they barely can afford the car they have. In fact, a lot of them are renting their car. So if you're going to displace people who can barely afford the car that they're driving, and then they're going to be, you're going to have fleet operators that can afford 5, 10, 20 vehicles, it's going to kind of shift a bit. So I agree with you in spirit, but I'm just a little curious about how fast it's going to happen,
I agree with you too. It is something that needs to be talked about, is what is going to happen. Do we start offering universal basic income? Because artificial intelligence and machine learning is like technology is growing at an exponential pace. They used to call it an S curve. Now they're calling it J curves because it's happening so fast. Technology throughout the decades is just accelerating. So yeah, you're right.
It's amazing.
We'll see if they.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I think it's great. We're gonna go to Chris has got a question, but before we get to that, yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, there was like actually a bank teller, and then the ATM was like a new thing, and now it's like a normal thing, and it's weird to talk to the bank teller. But it is going faster.
Do you even go to the bank anymore?
Oh, that's a good point, right? You just on the phone.
Just snap a picture of your check, deposit it. You don't even go to the bank anymore.
That's a good point. And
even banks are going away. There's online banks now that don't even have, like Ally Bank is online only. They don't have any physical store or locations.
No brick and mortar.
No brick and mortar.
Right.
And that's kind of my main point, is that if you have multiple sectors doing the same thing of automating and getting robots and all things, if you have multiple segments of the economy replacing labor all at once, that's where I think we're going to have the struggle with people adapting and trying to find a new job.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Well, things are happening. Let's go to questions. Let's go to Chris Rocky Hernandez. Go for it, and then we'll get to you, Tom.
Hey guys. So I was the chief engineer at Too Simple for 2 years, and we did autonomous semi trucks. Still to this day, the only group that ever did a driver outrun from Tucson to Phoenix on a regular basis, full of cargo. So I have some experience with this autonomous thing. I will say that a lot of the industry looks at this as a zero-sum game over time. So to Talik's point, there's going to be all this shifting that's occurring immediately, and people will lose their jobs. But in the long run, the idea is that things will wind up in those particular industries. People will wind up taking advantage of newly created jobs. So there's always going to be a pain point in the beginning. And we experienced that big time over at Too Simple. And we had drivers that would literally come to our parking lots and vandalize all of our trucks and slash tires and spray paint all over them, sometimes try to light them on fire. And because they were very upset that all of their jobs were going to go away tomorrow. And in the world of autonomous driving, although AI is growing fast, autonomous driving, I will say from experience, is not going to come nearly as fast as I think a lot of people are afraid it is. And I think that when we see things, I mean, here in Tempe, in Arizona, Talik, you've been here, you can go get a Waymo anytime you want, but they're still not ready for prime time. Cruise was the same way. So it's not like this thing is coming tomorrow at 10. AI in general is being used very quickly, but robo-taxis, it's as much as everybody wants to say it's happening tomorrow. And I worked in that industry for a number of years, and even before Too Simple, worked in the autonomous driving industry. And it's it's just not coming along as fast as everybody thinks it is. And if the trucking industry is not going to figure it out first, then the car for the taxis is definitely not going to. There's so many more variables. And this is my prediction. Of course, I don't know the future, but I think over time, the whole job displacement will be in the positive, I think, or in the negative. I think we'll wind up having a lot more jobs because of this. But in the short term, like Talik said, I think as jobs do start to get displaced, I mean, what are they going to go do? So you have to start to think about, if you're going to be proactive as a person that works in that industry, then you need to start looking now about what are you going to do? Are you going to go buy your own vehicle? Are you going to own your own fleet? Are you going to learn to work on these cars? That was another thing that we were working on directly with some of the community colleges here. But that Too Simple went to the local community colleges and started up their own program for how to service and maintain all these autonomous trucks. Nobody knew how to do that. So that's just one example of how are you going to go ahead and facilitate the ushering in of all these autonomous driving vehicles in your own unique way. As a driver, that's going to be tough. I will say that Too Simple hired boatloads of drivers. I think somebody mentioned that earlier. Too Simple hired tons of drivers, and that was all just to get the training involved, because the AI systems need training, and it's no different for all the taxis as well. So I think it's going to be tough, but I do think in the long run it's going to be a positive as far as job creation. But in the short term, yeah, there's going to be some people that may lose their job. And if you want to look at it at a holistic level, I think that's where a lot of people wind up getting confused. It's like, well, the autonomous driving industry as a whole will create brand new jobs, but those aren't going to be brand new driving jobs. They're going to be something else. I think, Ali, you were talking about exactly that. So you just got to start thinking about what participation do you want to have? What do you want to do in that industry? Because it sure as hell isn't going to be drivers eventually.
Yeah, and again, I agree with the end result point. And I just want to make sure that we can try to take care of people as that pain point happens, because it's going to be a lot of people, probably a higher percentage than we've seen before. But I'm not saying I don't want it. I do really want to get rid of like a lot of the menial jobs so people can be free to live and have fun and do things they really want to do. But in the it's how quickly can we get there, I guess is the point,
Yeah, eventually there's going to be, an existential question that humans have to ask themselves, like, what do you enjoy doing? And if you don't have to work, that's like what people attach to when you meet someone. Hey, what do you do for work? What do if you don't have to do that, what do you do? So that question needs to be asked. And kind of like but I will say that there could be a net increase of jobs, because when the internet came about, the same question was happening, like, oh, look at these people that are going to lose their jobs. But with the advent of the internet and cell phones, you got companies like Uber and Lyft and things like that, and Airbnb, and all those became viable because of the internet. So we just have to think of other ways of monetizing on this new technology.
Yeah, let me just jump in here, and then we'll get over to Tom's question. I think there's an opportunity if you think about it. Look how excited we are. We're talking about it. We're spending our time worrying about it, talking about it. We're buying the tech. Ali is investing in more than one car. He's got a few cars because he thinks it's a big opportunity. Just on a simple level, I teach a lot of welding, and the welding machines are not the same machines that they used to be. They are really computers now. They're inverters. They're no longer transformers, and that opens up opportunity because they're actually they cost less. They're not a big ball of copper, and so I can buy more welders, and I can teach more people how to weld than I did before. But then all of a sudden it's going to get disrupted again, because now they're doing laser welding. Well, if somebody wants to be a laser welding technician, they could start with me, and they could start by learning how to the fundamentals. But then, so that's an opportunity for me to teach it, and then it's an opportunity for them to learn it. So I don't think that new tech is like this falling off a cliff scenario. I think it's just all opportunity. I mean, don't get me wrong. If you're, if you're aspiring to be a bank teller, yeah, I think the ATM machine has pretty much wiped you out. I would move into mortgage and talking to people. If you're a good people person, then you're going to be a face-to-face handshake mortgage person at the bank. All right, let's go over to Tom. Tom, sorry for muting you. It was a little feedback, but just unmute yourself and you're all good.
Yeah, I was wondering who's doing that. So I got a couple points, but I want to go first things first. You asked what do we think we're going to see on We Robot reveal. I think because I understand he's doing it at one of the studios. Is it Universal or one of the studios in LA where
Warner
there's a
Brothers.
where there's a big set. So we're going to see a vehicle actually drive around a set. And I think it's going to be a steering wheel pedal-less vehicle. And we're probably all going to be duly impressed. But I also think he's going to talk about opportunities for those of us like Ali and myself and others who want to put our cars out into the money-making realm. And frankly, my Tesla's been in the garage for the last week, plugged in because it uses power every day, but every night it gets charged up. But I think that it's going to be a little bit of a balanced diet. He's going to feed us, which is there's going to be opportunities for us Tesla owners to get in on the fun. And then the second point I want to make after a lifetime in organized labor is address this second point, which is this disruption, this possible disruption of workers becoming worth less. I would like to point out an article that just came out this morning in G Captain, which is a maritime newsletter that I get every day, about the two longshore unions that are completely separate. The East Coast ILA, which is the International Longshore Association, and on the West Coast is the ILWU. The ILWU has been able to avoid a strike by shifting to technology and allowing the ports to become more automated. And as the longshoremen age out and retire, they've been replaced by people that are trained to operate this technology of machines that can go out and lift up a container and put it on a truck, and the cranes that can unload the ships. And there's a high level of automation on the West Coast that the East Coast has yet to experience. And so they're those people that are going to be torching the trucks and and when you faced with the potential loss of your livelihood, it can be a little bit you can go a little bit crazy. But yes, Ali, this is going to open up vast opportunities. So that's my point.
Cool.
So, one other point I wanted to bring up about, especially if you're going to be a fleet manager or something like that, is so part of what's going on is the competition of prices between, right now it's been like Uber and Lyft for the most part, and everybody's trying to get rid of the labor component. So once you get rid of labor, how much are you going to actually earn on these rides? If it's going to be, again, a race to the bottom for who can charge the cheapest price.
Yeah.
So are you going to be earning the same as a Lyft driver, more as a Lyft driver, or less than? So now EVs do have very little maintenance, but they still do have maintenance. And any rideshare driver knows you're going to need to clean that thing. And so is it going to be paired with an optimist to come out and clean your car? There's so many other associated issues with rideshare. It's not just about driving, picking up, dropping off. We talked about wireless charging potentially, but also at some point, until the batteries don't fail at all. As I've talked about, I'm on my third battery, and I'm not even a heavy duty Uber driver. There's been conversations about even though these are like potentially million-mile cars, a million miles is going to come a lot faster when you're putting your car out there 5 times as much as you are right now.
You can always tell the Uber drivers at the charging station because they're the ones that are going to 100%. I mean, the rental. I meant the rental.
Yeah, the Hertz rental ones, not the regular ones. It's the Hertz ones.
So let's shift gear to like the actual thing that you think they'll reveal. Like a 3-wheeled car. Do you think these spy photos are really the ones? Or what do you think it's going to look like? Is it going to be like cyber construction? Why doesn't everybody just throw in their 2 cents? Let's start with Ali. I think he's got his finger on it. What do you think it's going to be?
I think it could be similar to that very first picture, the one where the door opens up. The door will obviously have to be controlled and be able to close, because if you forget to close it, it would need to be closed. I think it's going to be a high capacity 2-seater initially, because if Tesla's correct in stating that all their cars are going to be autonomous, you already have a 4-door sedan. You already have a 5-door SUV. You already have those things. What you don't have is a small car, because most rideshare rides are only 1 or 2 people. 80% of them are just 1 or 2 people. So you can really get by with having that 2-seater with a big storage, bin in the back or in the front. You really don't even need a frunk. I barely use my frunk during my rideshare rides. And then also you need, like I said, the back trunk, and then you need a high capacity like a van. So I think those 2 would be at least the minimum 2 vehicles that will be revealed.
Cool. Talik, what do you think? What's it going to look like, man?
Well, I think we're all pretty convinced it's going to be a 2-seater, maybe a 3-seater. But we're not sure about if it's going to be 4 or 3 wheels like that. And then you mentioned also, is it going to look like a cyber vehicle? I don't know. There was something sort of hinted at recently about kind of some cyber styling, maybe a mixture. If you watch James May Cybertruck video on his James May Gin channel, he's basically saying he would love to have because he's from the UK, so he likes the Cybertruck, but it's too big for him. And he was asking at the end of his video, he's like, "Hey Elon, make something like Model Y, Model 3 size, but with cyber styling." So I don't know if him and Elon talk, or more importantly, him and Franz talk, but there's probably some demand for maybe a blending of cyber styling, something like that. I mean, as I'm sitting here with a bunch of Cybertrucks around, and a Roadster. So yeah, 2 or 3 seats, 3 or 4 wheels, high capacity. It's got to have a lot of miles, because even though you can figure out charging, you still just, any time spent charging is time lost earning. You know what I mean? So
I definitely think cyber inspired, only for the fact of no paint, so that's cheaper, and no scratches, no dings or dents if you have a stainless steel type body. So you're not having to worry about, is somebody going to scratch the vehicle or anything like that. And also what was the other thing I was going to say? Just the ease of production. They're going to try to make this vehicle as easy to produce as they possibly can, which, using this method called the unbox process. Basically, they're taking the parts, instead of having the vehicle roll down the assembly line, they're actually producing all the small parts of it in different sections, and then at the very end putting everything together, which is a lot simpler and faster to produce a vehicle. So potentially we can see this vehicle produced pretty quickly after they announce it.
Yeah, that was actually a really good point, Ali. In fact, I don't know if you saw that recent post, as I have a Cybertruck here to demo.
Sweet.
This portion,
Tom, what do you got? I think he was going to say something.
I was just going to say ease of production is a key phrase that Ali just threw out, and I think it's going to be one platform, because and assembly lines are extremely expensive, time consuming to set up for multiple vehicles. I think what we're going to see is a is this next vehicle is going to be a combination driverless capability and the so-called $25,000 cheap car, 4 wheels.
Okay. All right. If I were to weigh in, actually, is anybody else? Chris, what do you think it's going to look like, man?
Like the next generation of Robotaxi, or
Yeah. What do you think it's going to look like?
I think it'll either look like that box-looking thing that Zoox makes, or I think it'll be an aero type thing, like an aero taxi,
Okay.
like one that flies.
Cool. Oh, there you go. Nice. Let's see, Doug. All right, Doug. What do you think it's gonna look like, Doug? Oh, you gotta unmute yourself. I know you're driving. I don't want you to crash while trying to figure it out.
I don't know if you noticed, but I just rejoined the conversation. I'm sitting here. I don't know if you can see this here. I'm sitting here at the San Ysidro port of entry. I just got done with an 1.5-hour wait.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Wait, here we go. San Ysidro port of entry. Can you see that?
Whoa. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's
I'm about
wild.
five cars from crossing the border. So I apologize.
All right. Well,
participating in the conversation. My bad.
Oh, don't worry, man. Don't worry. And let's keep the round table going. Kevin has joined us. Kevin, what do you think the Robotaxi? What are they going to reveal? What are we going to see on Thursday? Oh, you got to unmute it.
Honestly, this is the first time I've heard about any of this. I've been out of the loop on this, I guess. So I have no idea.
All right. Yeah, it's going to be it's funny because you're not the only one. There's actually most of the time a lot of people that are usually in the know on all the electric stuff. They usually know about the stuff, but this one I'm not sure has made it around. I guess it's not that controversial, like the way the Cybertruck was, and it just hasn't made it around.
You got a good point there, Ron, because as an EV community, then there's like the car club community, which is even a smaller portion of that. And then sort of overlapping that Venn diagram in an even smaller portion is those that really are in-depth and always tweeting and talking and posting and making YouTube videos. And that group is very small, but a lot of people follow them. So it is hard to say how many people are even going to know. In fact, there's people that have never seen a Cybertruck before. I mean, you'll roll through a town and they've never seen a Cybertruck. Going to Ali's point earlier, this area of the Cybertruck is called the Sale. And I saw a post recently about how it got damaged, and all they did was take off this piece and put a new one on. Done. And so going back to the maintenance or the cyber factor of the Robotaxi, that is a pretty good point. If it's stainless or something similar to this, that could make repairs very easy on any damaged Robotaxis.
Wild. Super cool. Well, so for my take, I think they're going to go with Cybertruck construction style, meaning large castings for the subframe of the front, the rear, and the middle will be, the middle's battery. And I think that the sides will be stainless, so no paint. And because of all that, you're going to have a very simple, vehicle. And as far as what we're actually going to see, I don't know. I think it's going to be something crazy. It's probably going to be something small. I think there's been some internal fighting on whether it should be something that people have a steering wheel or no steering wheel. And I remember hearing a podcast or something about how I think it's going to be an option. So this might be a double reveal where it's part Robotaxi, part consumer vehicle. And also think about it, like if it's smaller, maybe the range is less, I don't know. I don't know if you need the range. I think with the fast charging, it's kind of like a lot of people say to me like, "Oh, I can't wait till there's 500 miles of range," and I'm like, "You don't need it. You just charge up. It's not a big deal."
Well, I do want to chime in on the range thing as a rideshare driver. For me, every mile counts, and when I'm road tripping, I'm more than happy to stop every 2 hours, and so I feel like when I'm road tripping, I'm better with less range because you want to stop and take a break and all that. But when you're driving, you want to give as many long rides as possible, and every time you have to get off the road to go charge, you're like, I'm not earning right now. So I think it could go either way. It might have a 150-mile range, or it might have a 400-mile range. So it's hard to say yet.
All right,
another thing too, when the vehicles are going to be driving more. So let's say we drive 8 hours a day, but with a Robotaxi car, you can have it going 16 hours a day. You can have it double because you're not in the vehicle. So I would say you will want something with a little more range. And also there's a couple other things I think the Robotaxi car will have that the Cybertruck has. I think it's going to have 48-volt architecture. And so having 48 volts, meaning less wires, less, connectors, less bulk, and then you can have steer by wire, which is also on the Cybertruck, meaning there's no connection from the steering wheel to the actual wheels like in any other vehicle. I think that's going to be important for production as well as efficiency. And then I think they're going to introduce brake-by-wire as well. So that means there's not going to be any fluids in the vehicle other than for the cooling system. So no brake fluid, no power steering fluid, obviously. They got rid of that. And it's going to be a simpler you're only using wires for the brake system. So you're not having to run brake lines, which means you can do the unbox process because you have all the separate pieces. There's not going to be a piece where you have to run from one end of the car to the other like you would for brake lines. So I think that's going to be an important step too that they'll need.
I will say when you talk about the unboxed, there is something that people should watch that really drives it home, and that is, I think it was called Investor Day. And I got to tell you, if you have not watched it, like you can't just watch it like on the go. You got to sit down, nobody bother you, turn off the phone and watch Investor Day. Investor Day really will walk you through their bigger plan of having a car that it's a solution for the planet. They're going to make boats, planes, power stations, all this stuff. And the Robotaxi is just one more thing they're doing. But the big thing is the box, how you assemble a car. And that's right here. They're going to make it very simple to put together a car. Pre-assembly of a lot of modular units, and then they all go together. I mean, geez, the floor is a battery. The front and rear subframes are one-piece casting. So things are going to change as far as how things are put together, and they're going to design the cars. So it's something in engineering called design for manufacturing. In other words, you're not trying to just design it to make it look good or whatever. You have to first think, how are you going to make this thing? So it's kind of a more engineering heavy side. So that's why things are a little more rigid. They look like a Cybertruck. And so that's why that stuff like's happening.
Elon likes to call it the machine.
Anyway,
Elon calls it the machine that makes the machine.
Yeah.
And also, they also think of first principles. That kind of stems from what you were saying. They look at every part, not only how to manufacture, but does it even need to exist? Like, what is that part? Can we add it to some other part and make one part having two functions or more than one function? So they're constantly doing that with everything they do. Even I think lately someone said the sound system in the Cybertruck is amazing, and they actually used the pillar of one of the sides of the car for the acoustics of one of their speakers. So they didn't have to make a separate thing. They actually used what was already there. So I think they're going to take that to the next level with this next vehicle. And, you know, stemming from all this too, with these self-driving that I think they've solved, they've actually created this synthetic brain that now they can put that brain inside the Optimus robot. So I think by calling it We Robot, I think they're going to have something to do with the the humanoid robot. So they actually can put that, they actually have the self-driving chip from the vehicle that they put inside of the humanoid robot. And actually what they said initially was that robot walking around thought it was a car, and they had to reprogram it to say, to say that it's not a car, that it's actually a robot. So I think we might have some more clues on what that thing is going to be and how quickly they can manufacture that, because I think no other company is even close with solving for autonomy like they are. They might have a robot, but I think Tesla has all the ingredients with the manufacturing, the FSD, and the humanoid robot that they can actually bring all this stuff together. And I think that's what 1010 is really going to be, is just bringing all the stuff that they have together.
Yeah, all the compute
That's
power
amazing.
as well. So there's also been speculation that perhaps to start or something like that, or at some point, an Optimus will drive you, because Optimus is a lot less, it's a lot cheaper. From a whole car to a robot size, I believe he said that Optimus is going to end up being cheaper. You can get one for like $20,000. So if you have an Optimus be your full self-driver, what if Optimus as a chauffeur is one of the things he brings up?
That's amazing.
I think there could be an Optimus in a vehicle, but I think that would be more for the last mile. Let's say you got a DoorDash delivery, and instead of somebody has to bring you the food, somebody has to bring you your groceries. I think the Optimus could be in the vehicle to do that last few feet of delivery. That's what I think. But I think the car itself is good enough to drive itself. I don't see the need for the humanoid robot to drive. I don't see a need for that. Maybe we'll find out in 3 days.
So this is pretty cool. So I want to wrap it up for the recording, and I think this is amazing. One last look at the unboxing. Look at this situation. They're already assembled. You see the chairs are already on the floor and in the back seat, and look how it goes together. 1, 2, and then 3, 4, and then 5, and that's it. Oh, sorry, 6. And then the accessories, all the stuff on the sides. So it's like they built the car before they built the car. It's pretty amazing. The other thing I want to mention, speaking of reducing the parts, we've got an amazing thing going on with some of our own good EVLC people. The EVLC has restarted their podcast, and they had the one and only Sandy Monroe on their podcast, and it was so cool. And it was interviewed by by some of the young people in at the EVLC. And so give it a listen. I started watching it. It's really good. It's the kids, they're a little nervous, obviously, but they do a really good job. And Sandy Monroe actually goes ahead and he goes in deep. It might be too deep for a young kid interviewing them, but it's really good. And he talks about his beginning, like how he started, and the opportunities. It was kind of cool. It's like you realize there's 60 years between these people. And so it's kind of interesting to hear their perspective. Imagine, a grandpa talking to grandkids, but from extreme position of engineering, hey, you know, I did this amazing engineering career. How did I do it? Here's how I did it. You know, so pretty cool. So give that one a listen. It's very easy to find. You just type in EVLC, and there's lots of videos on there.
I watched it. It was really good. At the end, it really, you know, yeah, he did go off a little bit initially, but it was very good. I highly recommend people watch that.
Nice. All right, cool. So we're gonna wrap it up right there. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Maybe a lot of us oldsters can remember when we were really fascinated with science fiction, and this We Robot is a play on words of Isaac Asimov's I, Robot. And if you never read it as a kid, you might want to refresh yourself about it, because I think that science fiction and science reality are definitely merging before our eyes here.
That is awesome. That is great.
Yeah,
good stuff. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
So-
Anybody want to add anything else before we go?
Well, I was going to say the We Robot thing is one of the intriguing things about this. You know, as Tom said, it's the play on the title from iRobot. But is it going to be, you know, we being, is it us with the robot driving, or, you know, like how are they going to interplay the we part? And I really want to know more about that because of everything we talked about tonight.
Yeah.
Nice. Super cool. And I really appreciate everybody being here. And and Ali, thanks for bringing in the experience. He's driving full self-driving every day, using it as an Uber driver, and incredible. So I'm excited. I have a Tesla, and but I'm also a gas guy. I got some an old Ford Ranger. But I think it's amazing to have these options, and it is the preferred choice once you make the switch over. So we're very excited to see what happens in this company coming up. All right. EV Hangout. Thanks a lot.